everybody, I got it done. I'm pretty stoked and happy about it. My Open Game Development System resource document is now available on DriveThru RPG. The thing about it, it's not 100% complete yet, but I mean, I got a lot of work done on it. I went as fast as it could. In this video, I'm just going to go through it quickly and show you what I did. There's no monsters in it. There's no cover on it yet. I'm going to be working on those. That'll be in the next update for this thing. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm really happy with it, actually. And I spent... I was really running a marathon to get this thing done. But I managed to get it done. And yeah, I'm really stoked about it. Alright, enough of this crap. Let's take a look at it. So the first thing you need to know about this document is there's no artwork or anything in it yet, but I do intend to put a cover on it. Hopefully going to get that done this week. And also it's missing monsters right now, and but I will be adding them. Monsters are kind of a big thing because of the way that I want them to be handled. At least in the SRD, you can do whatever you want with them. But this is basically, now what I've done here is I've based my Open Game Development System resource document on my copyrighted work, but I've released it under the Creative Commons, and I've released it. However, what I've done is because what I release it under is that you have to share your game. So if you make a game with it without the with the Creative Commons, you would have to share the game. And so that would mean any artwork that you made or anything like that would end up being part of the Creative Commons, and people would be able to copy it and distribute it and stuff. And that's not the spirit of an OGL. An OGL allows you to have logos and trademarks, allows you to have some copyrighted stuff. So what you did, I mean, you can probably read it right now. You can pause it and read it if you want. So what I've done is I added a clause to this document as the copyright holder. As long as you publish this page with whatever rule set you make, I grant permission irrevocably, in perpetuity, forever and ever, for you to include copyrighted material and still use my document. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. You can do art, you can put your logo on it, you can put other people's art in it, I mean, provided that you have a right to it, etc. Now, if you don't publish this page with it, then it is just under the Creative Commons, which is great. Some people may want to do that, at which point somebody can just publish the entire document however they want. But the way I've got this set up is that by including this permission, you can include your own copyright stuff, such as a game title, name, world name, whatever you want. But it does not include rules. So in this, you agree that you are not going to include rules with your copyright. So if you produce something with this document, whatever you produce, and I mean, it might look quite a bit different than what I've done here, because this is just a platform. This is a jumping off place for making a game. It's not a complete game in itself yet. It will be by the time I'm done, I'm sure. But it's based on a game that I made back in the 90s. And that game wasn't 100% complete, and this game isn't either, but it will be. So the thing is, you can put copyright stuff in it. So I had an epiphany that I could use the Open Game, or I could use the Creative Commons, and I think that that's what scares people with Creative Commons, is because you lose control of your intellectual property. But with this permission, you don't lose control of it. I don't mind. You may use my document and with copyrighted material, so long as you do not try and copyright your rules. Anyone may publish and copy your rules in their own documents. Stuff you make for this game can be used in other games, but not your copyrighted material, not your, say, your artwork or your logo or your world or your campaign setting, that kind of thing. But the rules, yes. The rules can be shared. under this license. And if you don't include this permission slip in here from me, then it just goes right to Creative Commons, which is fine. Have a party. You still have to include the Creative Commons in it in order to use it. And then your own art, or your art and everything could be distributed by anybody. You've basically made a free game. This is a list of the rules. Does it all fit in there? I can't quite tell. My camera's kind of messed up. No, not quite. But this is a list of all the rules as I have them written in sections. Each number is a section. So we have player, heroes, GMs, actions, resolution roles, attribute advantage, disadvantages, race, attribute dice, 6 attributes, etc. So this is a quick reference. Because of the way the rules are written out, it's really handy to just have a quick reference. So this is going to have to grow. There's going to be more stuff here. I also didn't include any rules on movement. So I'm gonna have to do that as well, but that won't be right away. So each section, each number is a set of rules. Now the way that I intend to update this material is if I want to change something here, I'll just change it to 2.1. So, and 2.2 and like that, and just away, because this is just a document. This isn't actually meant to be a game in and of itself. That is up to the person who uses this material to make a game, which actually I'm going to use it to make a game. So I'm not going to use this as my game. I'm going to use this as my platform to make the game. And I am going to, as I update this document, the older documents will still be available. So if I make this document and it becomes 1.1, 1.0 will still be available. And the reason for that is because it's in perpetuity. I can't really cancel it, and if I change it, it might muddy the waters, and people might not understand what's been changed. So I just want a clear history. So that's how I'm going to release it. It's on Drive-Thru RPG. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up my locals, and I'm going to start releasing materials such as rich text document and stuff like that for this on there. People will be able to join it. And if they want to consult with me on it, if they have ideas or they want to contribute art or please be a copy tester if anybody wants to make sure I'm not making spelling mistakes and stuff. Man, I have trouble with that. But anyway, anything like that. And then I'm going to start making a campaign world for it, and I'm going to start making maps and game content for it and that kind of thing. So just go through it right here. So I have, again, I made this in the 90s. I made it. It was going to be a competitor with Wizards of the Coast, and I wrote this game out before the OGL, before I even imagined that there could be an OGL. I wrote this out, and I rolled it out as a competitor to Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards of the Coast and all the other games that are out there. And so what happened is I already tried to get around a lot of the stuff that they might claim, oh, you can't say that, you can't do that, because we own that. And so I was trying to not get around it, but I was trying to make a unique product, and I think I did. So I've got player heroes, or just hero, instead of characters. You're a hero. Non-player heroes are NPHs. Now, actions are resolved with a die roll, and this game defaults to a 2d10 system. But you can use any system you want. You can use any set of dice that you want, and it's all kind of made to work with them. However, there are pluses and minuses. If you want 3d6, if you want to use that, right, for example, you'll have low average rolls that land on a bell curve that will make the game harder but more stable. And the reason it'll make the game more stable is because on a bell curve, you have the middle sort of section is where you're going to roll the most. So it makes the GM's job of figuring out what monsters the party can fight and stuff a lot easier. 2d10, again, bell curve, but you get a little bit higher die results. Not much, but a little bit. So it's stable, and it makes the game a little bit easier. A d20, you could use that if you wanted. There's no average with it, and it makes the game really unpredictable and unstable, and possibly more difficult because of that. You can use two 12-sided dice, which would give you a nice bell curve. It would give you a range of 2 to 24. So with the higher average rolls, it makes the game a lot easier for players and stuff. And then you can go all the way up to a D24, right? Again, it's got the same disadvantages as a D20, however, you do get higher rolls with it. And one thing, when I've play tested this with a D24, I would always have the 4, the 21, 22, 23, 24. Whatever's above 20 would be a bonus to damage. So if you rolled a 24, you get a +4 to damage. Another thing you could do too is, if you wanted a critical hit, say, you could have it as a multiplier. So if you rolled a 22, you'd have 2 times damage. 23 would do 3 times damage. You get the idea. That would be, I think, really fun as a critical system. I'm not going to put it in the SRD because it's kind of like somebody else can do that if they want to do it. I'm just going to put really the base stuff in this. I want to leave it as open as possible for people to create the experience they want to create with it. And that I want them to know that this is never, ever, ever going anywhere. I have given up my rights to it through the Creative Commons. But I haven't given up my copyright, but I've given up ownership of it. This is everybody can use this however they want. So I've got so what happens down here with races, as I've just got samples races, right? So I only have the 5 here: an elf, a dwarf, a human, a goblin, a half elf, and I only have how you would do their attributes, okay? And heroes have 6 attributes, and you can have advantage and disadvantage when rolling your attributes. Okay. I don't have advantage and disadvantage for these rolls here. A person could probably add them if they wanted, but I haven't made it part of the game mechanics. But, that would be a great thing to add if you were going to make this into, if you were going to use this as a game system. So the elf has advantage with agility and presence, but disadvantage with endurance. So that means they would roll. Now, this game you develop, the default's to 2d10, so you develop the attribute scores with 2 10-sided dice, so you get a range of 2 to 20. And then, so the elf would roll for agility, would roll 3 10-sided dice and take the 2 highest, but disadvantage and endurance would mean that they would roll for 3 10-sided dice and take 2 lowest dice. So, that's just the way to generate the ability scores. And, or not ability scores, sorry, the attribute scores. And, let's see, I'm so used to playing D&D, it's just, it's natural, but I don't have ability scores, I have attribute scores. As you can see right here, 6 attributes. So, you could also, if you wanted, roll these dice, different set of dice to generate the attributes. That would work as well. Whatever set, however you wanted to do it. You do need to tweak the numbers a little bit depending on what you use. Now, the other thing is that there's resolution rolls, right? RRs. And generally speaking, you should pick what set of dice you're going to use for your resolution rolls, and then stick with that for your entire game. You don't want people choosing their own, and you don't want to use various different ones, unless you come up with something clever where you can do it. But this is how I envision it at any rate. Okay, so if you want it to be a 2d10 system, stick with 2d10. Do all your resolution rolls. So you have combat rolls, magic rolls, that sort of thing, which are all basically resolution rolls. So the 6 attributes are strength, agility, endurance, intelligence, willpower, and presence. So there's some alternate names here, just to give you an idea of what these mean. So strength could be also brawn, muscle, might, physical. Agility could be feed, fast, feed? Did I say feed? I said feed. Speed, fast, dexterity, balance. Endurance, it could be fortitude, grit, constitution, mettle. Intelligence could be brains, education, mind, IQ. Willpower could be discipline, drive, wisdom, insight. And I mean, it's not limited to these, but these are just giving you an idea if you want to mix and whatever. But the SRD itself defaults to strength, agility, endurance, intelligence, willpower, and presence. And then it uses these abbreviations for them. And then number 8 here, go into a little bit of how you should write down on a piece of paper. I will make a character sheet for this, probably a pretty plain Jane one, just for the SRD. leave the creative stuff up to you guys and me. I'm definitely making a game with this. I'm very excited about it. So your attribute bonuses, whatever your score is, you just subtract 14 from it, and that'll give you your bonus. But if it's lower, if your score is lower than 14, or lower than 10 rather, then you subtract 10 from it, and that'll give you penalties if you decide to use penalties. Everything's an option in here. So you have another column called hits and damage. Hits are how many hits you can take before you'll die, and damage is where you keep track of your damage. So you keep a running total of any damage you have. And if your damage should ever equal your hits or go higher than your hits, then you become wounded. Right here. And I've got like the key words of whatever section I'm talking about kind of highlighted, and then it's numbered. So all heroes begin with D8 hits. So you'd roll a 8-sided die, you would add your endurance score to it, and that would be your starting hits. And then you'd write your damage down beside it, and you would just keep a total. And then if it, like I say, if it gets higher than that, you're in trouble. In the SRD. I mean, I don't know if you use this to make your own system, do it your way. So heroes have a defense number. Now, they get a defense. They have a naked defense, 8 plus their agility bonus, right? Which is the bonus is whatever your agility score is minus 14. So you'd have 8 plus whatever that bonus is, and that would be your what's called a naked defense. And then when you wear armor, it adds to your defense. And your defense works as a difficulty number that you have to roll your resolution roll above that. Your RR has to be above that in order to hit a target. So you have hit points. And they're hero points. Hero points, not hit points. Sorry. See, again, now this is D&D. Just invades my mind. But, you know, it's not D&D. You have hero points, and the hero points you earn throughout the game, the hero points you use to buy levels in guilds. Now, you can belong to all kinds of guilds, different guilds, so long as they don't clash or compete with each other. So, and then I go a little more into resolution rolls here and tasks. Basically, there's no point in rolling anything that is less difficult than 12 or better, which I just call 12 plus. So all heroes can begin play belonging to a guild. I kind of recommend it. If you want to make rules for not belonging to a guild, be my guest. The SRD probably won't include that, because that's something I think that you know, game creators might want to play with. So what happens is once you've rolled all that up for your character, you know your race, and then you've rolled for your attribute scores, you can pick a guild. I've only got 3 examples of guilds. There's 2 here and then one further on. So I've got the example of a swordsman. So we've got requires, and requires a strength bonus of at least +2 or better, and has to be a human or a dwarf. I only put that in there just to show the kind of, I'm just showing the kind of requirements that you could have. Cost to join is 5 hit points, but that gets waived on initially creating your character, your hero. And it's really hard to get D&D out of the head, but I'm going to do it. I'm sick of them. So the thing is you can belong to as many guilds as you want, you know. But you can only, if your guilds conflict, or who knows how the GM might want to rule it, you can only have one guild as your primary guild at any time. And if they clash, then you really have to ditch one of them. So, for example, if you belong to a guild that allows armor and you belong to a guild that doesn't allow armor, then obviously you can be only acting in one capacity or the other. If one allows magic and the other doesn't allow magic, obviously you could only work in one capacity. If you had 2 guilds, both magical, you could probably operate in both at the same time. So as I have it written here, and of course you're welcome to change this if you want, but as I have it written here, it goes from 0 level, which is how a hero would start out at 0 level once they've joined it, and then they would go all the way up to 5th level. 5th level is actually pretty powerful. Now, the reason it only goes to 5th level is because you can belong to so many guilds and you kind of bop around, and buying up different levels in a guild costs a lot of hero points. So it will take a while to level up and stuff. So you get a number of hits per level, and a swordsman gets 3. Then the cost of level, it costs 5 hit points plus 3 times the level. So if you want to be second level, it would cost you 5 plus 6, which would be 11 hero points. And you're only supposed to get about 2-3 hero points a game session. So it goes fast, but not too fast. That's the idea. And of course, that can all be modified and changed by you if you wish. They have powers like this swordsman can use any sword, wear any medium light armor. You gain +2 CR, which is combat roll, with any sword per guild level. Now that means this guild level, not any old guild level. And then as you level, you get different abilities. These are your abilities, depending on what level you are. And we've got novice, apprentice, professional, journeyman, master, and adept. So here's a wizard. Now, I'll explain my version of a wizard because it might be a little different than your understanding. A mighty hero, highly educated and trained in the ways of magic. Wizards are good at making things disappear and reappear, often in a puff of smoke. That's how I imagine wizards. Fireworks and, teleporting, disappearing, reappearing, that sort of thing. So again, novice, apprentice. So I forgot to write in the names there. I noticed that. So there we go. There's a correction, something I have to fix. 4th level, 5th level in the game for a magic, and this guy would be an adept at that. So a thing about this magic system, which I should go over, is it defaults to a very open magic system. I'll get into it, but I'll just show you right here. At the apprentice or at the novice level, your spells can do a D4 damage. At the apprentice level, D6. And then once you start going up in level, starts going more. Here you can do a D8, D10, ultimately a D12. Okay, and then it tells you sort of what can be expected from your magic. The hero, or rather the player, is welcome to come up with whatever spells they want, so long as they fit within this framework of what is expected from that guild, because this is their training. Now, there's rules for them to go beyond that. However, it defaults to this system, and you have to make a roll to cast spells, which is your MR, your magic roll. I'll go into that in a bit here. So here we've got armor. Now, armor is set up to be sort of piecemeal in the default sort of rules. So you've got your first layer, your second layer, and your third layer, and then you've got bonuses, and you can build armor. Now, I like this because this is what I do in my campaign worlds. I like to have suits of armor that make sense. So you wouldn't just be able to go buy plate mail armor. You'd have to wear whatever the soldiers are wearing. You probably wouldn't wear that completely because there's probably laws against it. Impersonating the police, impersonating military, something like that. It's probably illegal, so you'd probably have some combination, or maybe you found some stuff somewhere else. Now, the way I do this, the way I the way I apply armor is quite a bit different in my campaign worlds. But I'm trying to write this sort of as most people play D&D or D&D RPGs, right? So, likewise, I've created suits of armors. If you want to wear padded or leather or chain or plate mail. Now, I say right in here, I've never really understood what the simplified armor means, and I really don't. I don't understand it, but it's there because I've used it and other people have used it. Section 18, weapons. Weapons are categorized by size and how much damage they'll do. This also corresponds with monsters and how much damage monsters will do. But this is examples of the weapons. Ranges, there's 4 categories of ranges. There's close, there's medium, there's far, and there's long. I haven't done the movement system yet, but the movement system is probably going to be based on this. Like you can move medium distance, tiny creatures maybe only close distance, that sort of thing. Monsters the same way. The reason I'm doing that is I really don't like movement systems that are too crunchy. Of course, if you're going to use this, you're more than welcome to build it any way you want. If you want it crunch, make it crunch away. So order of combat is resolved in turns. And in a turn, heroes can make actions, moving, casting magic, or just acting or doing a thing like drinking from a flask. You're not going to be able to drink from a flask and run away unless the GM doesn't mind it or you've got some special ability that allows you to do it. 21 just goes into combat order. 22 talks about what you can do. You can move and attack, or you can act. It's basically what's available to you at this current writing. You're, of course, welcome to change that. 23 goes into the combat roll and a little bit of what it means to make a combat roll. Then it starts moving into damage. The 25 talks about becoming wounded. That's when your hits exceed, or when your damage exceeds your hits. You become wounded. And that's just a die roll to which you can add your endurance ability and maybe other abilities. So the higher you roll, the better off you are. So we've got different categories here. And I actually just read a military book, and so that's where these categories actually come from. It's just from the language they were using. So you've got severe. So if you really roll badly, and I didn't put that in here, but what I would do, maybe I'll add it in another iteration. But what I would personally do is any hits that are above or any damage that's above your hits, I would take that difference and apply it as a penalty to this die roll. So severe is imminent death. Your arms, you've lost a limb, probably 90% likely you have a permanent disability. This is a very bad wound. You're probably dead or very close to it. A major wound, you need help, and you need to help right away or you're going to die. And with each of these, it tells you basically how long you can expect to take to heal. From a severe wound, it takes months. From a major wound, it takes D10 weeks. A minor wound, you'll take D10 days. And a slight wound, you brush yourself off, you're good to go. So I have 27 is a hit location. 28 is talking about good rests, adequate rests, and bad rests, which basically goes on a spectrum, and it's up to the GM to sort of calculate it themselves and figure out how much rest and stuff they need. And this is important for several different rules. So 29 is just a clarification for the purpose of clarity. A reaction roll for casting magic is called an MR, magic roll, and is modified by intelligence. So they go a little bit into magic. Magic's abstract, powerful. The heroes don't really know what they're playing with. So if a hero fails their magic roll, they lose the ability to cast their highest guild level for that day. And if they fail again, they lose the next highest, and so forth. So there's real consequences to failing your rolls, and it does get more and more difficult the higher up level. Obviously, the more powerful they get to. If a player wishes to cast a spell, make one up and just writes out outside of the box, something not covered in the rules or something opportunity presents itself, what they can do is the negotiation rules come into effect. And they have to negotiate with the GM, and they have to negotiate a really severe consequence if they fail. And the GM will tell the hero the difficulty of the roll, and that sort of thing. And then if the hero should fail, that consequence happens, and it should be quite severe. But it does allow a hero to kind of really play outside the box. Now, down here we've got legendary magic, and that's magic that's written on walls and slates and boards and scrolls and in spell books and that kind of thing. And they have to be memorized. So this covers just quickly some rules about memorizing. You get a number of slots to memorize, so legendary magic often requires a number of spells. Legendary magic is a forgotten magic. But if you have these spells, then your hero can actually memorize them. And these spells don't require negotiations. They tend to be fairly powerful. And I've got an example of one here. And I've only got the one. It's an example, but in an update, I'm sure I'll add more. But it's a type of spell as wizards. Only wizards can cast it. Time to cast is 1 turn. The slots it requires is 1. Difficulty is intelligence 12 or higher. This spell causes a gentle wind with a soft musical chime to blow over a small area. Up to 12 creatures within the area of 5 or fewer hero points will be gently lulled to sleep. This spell will take D3 turns to take effect. Failure will generate a stinking wind with loud fart sounds that will immediately reveal the caster. The caster can fail on purpose if they wish. So that's an example of a wizard's legendary spell. So then it gets into deities and praying. Now, anybody can follow a deity because, in my opinion, that's how this sort of stuff actually worked. So I've always sort of gone towards that. And in the 90s, I always thought that'd be a really cool idea if anybody could. So if you follow a deity, you are a follower, obviously. But you can ask the deity for help. And when you ask for the deity for help, you get to use your presence as a bonus to try and ask for help. And but you have to be careful because every god has an anger threshold and a pleasure threshold. And if you fall in the angle, if you roll so badly that you fall in the anger threshold, then you're in a lot of trouble. Now, the GM is responsible for keeping track of something called faith. Faith is the amount of stuff you do for the god, and it increases. Or you promote their purposes, and you try and help. You try and do whatever the heck it is that the god likes. Then your faith will increase, and that faith can be used as a bonus when you ask for help from a god. And then 39 covers how answering a prayer might work. So depending on your campaign world, you may want, when a god answers, maybe the god appears, maybe they send a demigod down to help you out. Or the way I like to do it is I don't say anything. I don't even allow the heroes to see the die roll. But if the god is answered, then I apply help in some way, in a way that will be hard for the hero to detect. And the reason I do that is because I like it because it's kind of like how real life works, right? So there are also devotees. A devotee is a kind of follower like a cleric, a priest, an acolyte, something along those lines, right? And there's somebody who has really, really chosen to drink the Kool-Aid, and they're 100% dedicated to the deity, and so they get more powers and abilities, a little bit like how a wizard would. Only in the difference is that their powers are granted as opposed to a wizard's that are manipulated. So I did a sample god here, Ares, god of war. I'll probably do all of the gods. But this is just where I started from. You can read this. I'm recording this in 4K, but the sword, it has a symbol. It has what the god loves, what they hate. So what they love, this is sort of what you have to promote and go after in order to gain faith with the deity. Hatred, if you show any of these things, do any of these things, help any of these things, then you're in a lot of trouble. Ares is not a nice god. Sorry, gods of war. But if you read up about Ares, he was kind of a tyrant. So his temperament is 1830, meaning if you roll 18 or less trying to ask him for help, he'll get angry. But if you roll 30 or higher, he'll actually send help. Those are pretty scary numbers. And a hero never knows how much faith they have. That's an important aspect of this game. And if the hero asks for help and it fails, they actually lose D6 faith points. So, a hero will never have really exactly know how much faith they have stored up in the bank. So a prayer type, this is the kind of prayer that's expected if you're going to pray to them. And in Ares' case, it's a sacrifice. Tenets. Victory in battle, cruelty, brutality. That's what he really likes to see. Favor. This is if he favors, if he decides he's going to answer your prayer. This is just a guidance for the GM. He's likely to send allies, reveal strategy, reveal an item. He's all about fighting and being strong and everything. He's unlikely to intervene in any kind of way to save your ass if you're showing weakness. And then if you anger him, he's likely to send enemies to kill or test the follower, and likely also to rain down a wasting disease. And then I go more into him there. And this is an example of a devotee to Ares. Again, you've got your levels. And then, for example, at second level, you gain a +2 CR against enemies that flee or ask for mercy. Your damage lowers 2 points when you kill a large enemy. You can rage for 1 turn with +5 combat roll and +2 damage against an enemy once per day. So, as you can see, they're pretty powerful. And they go up to 5th level. At 5th level, when you're adept, you would probably move on to another guild, or you might have 2-3 guilds that you're building up at the same time. That's how this works. However, there's nothing to stop a game designer or a GM just from continuing and going 6th, 7th, 8th. Have at her if that's what you want to do. Money is a decimal point system because I'm Canadian. So I just rate things in a decimal point system. Basically, everything's a division of 10. I raise a decimal. Because that way you can have gold and money in your campaign world of any divisions or whatever. As long as it slots into that system, you should be able to more or less trade the money back and forth and be able to figure out the prices of things. Of course, you can just quickly make up, and I give an example here. For example, a 0.1 would indicate 1/10 of a coin, because 1 is considered the primary money. So, for example, a gold coin maybe. So 1/10 might be a silver. So 10 silver coins make up a gold. Here I'll start with 2d10 times 10 coins, 2 to 20. Then I've got a list of, just a quick list of items. I have a massive list of items that I researched the hell out of. And it's from the Middle Ages. It's got all the different horses that were from then and all this stuff. And I cannot find it anywhere. I was hoping to include it in this. If I find it, I'll include it. But I've been looking for a few years now. And I haven't been able to find it. But this is just a quick list. And then the prices are here. So this would cost half a coin. This is 0.2 coins. So you could have a coin that is worth 0.2, right? You could have a coin that's worth 0.5. I just wrote it in this because this system isn't meant to be a game in itself. It's only meant to be a reference document. Right now, anyway. Different transportation. Different weapons. It's not exhaustive. It's not meant to be. The damage of weapons is basically just in categories of size. So very easy to figure out how much damage and so forth. Suits of armor. Okay, so these are the actual suits of armor. The ones that I said I don't really understand. Well, here they are. And I tend to keep prices a little bit realistic. So if you don't like that, you'll need to go in and adjust those, which is fine. Ranged weapons. So you've got the amount of damage they cause. You've got the rate of fire. So one thing that I always like to do in my games, and you would think, oh, this would be terrible. But it isn't actually. It just means strategy is more realistic. But I allow like a longbow. You can make 2 shots with a longbow in a turn. And it does medium damage. So you're talking about 2 8-sided dice. You want to avoid longbows. You want to avoid short bows, even though they don't do as much damage, but they still do 2 dice. That is because that's what bowmen could actually fire in a turn, as I have a turn measured, could actually fire off about 5 shots. So I scaled it back a little bit, but I have to have that in there a little bit, otherwise it drives me crazy. If that makes any sense. And crossbows take 3 turns to load, and crossbow takes half a turn. That's why crossbowmen, though they were really liked because you could throw out lots of them, they didn't have to be very skilled. You really didn't want to face heavy bowmen that were skilled. Anyway, so that's that. That's the whole that's the whole document as she sits right now. So as you can see, there are no monsters, but there will be monsters. I'll be working on that soon. There's no cover on it yet, but I will be working on that soon. And I'll be adding just more stuff as time goes on. And I'm going to start setting up my locals this week so that if people want to participate or they want to help support me doing this, if they want to get behind this project, they'll be able to. So that's it. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you'll go to DriveThruRPG and check it out. And if you don't like it, I hope that you'll come back, because I'm going to be constantly revising it and updating things on it. So, version 1.1 should be coming out pretty quickly with a cover, some monsters in there. And then I want to develop more spells, more legendary spells, just keep going with it. I want it to be a fairly thick, good-sized document when I'm done, so that people can really base a good game on it. And then I'm going to start developing my own game and my own world for it using this. But I can't do both things at the same time. So right now I'm working on this. But anyway, thank you so much for hanging in there. If you made it this far, I'm amazed. And check back, because like I say, I'm going to be updating this puppy as often and as well as I can. Again, as I always say, I work a full-time job, so, there are limits to how much time I can devote on these things. But I got this done in 2 days. I'm pretty damn happy with that. I'm pretty impressed with myself. So, yeah, all right. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I hope you come back. All right.